Greetings, everyone. I am Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another book review here on the channel. Today, we're going to take a look at the autobiography from a very, very, very good guitar player who, of course, played with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers for many, many years. Mike Campbell, a memoir, Heartbreaker, with a little help from Ari Serduval. Right, there's a more recent shot of Mike along with either his Telecaster or Broadcaster, one or the other, which looks like it's been well played, right? Look at those frets, well worn. That neck looks like it's been played quite a bit. And there, of course, is Mike in his younger days. Right. This book is, about 450 pages long. This came out earlier this year. A fast-paced, tender-hearted rock and roll memoir for the ages. Mike Campbell's Heartbreaker is part rags to riches story and part raucous seat of the pants adventure, where he recounts his life and times as the lead guitarist of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Yeah, and you got some photographs in the middle section here. You know, of course, because every one of these rock bios or autobiographies have to have some shots from the early days, later on, so on and so forth. Here's a picture with Dylan, right? I really, really enjoyed this book. In fact, I will say I enjoyed this much more than, and I enjoyed that too. I read a Tom Petty biography like a year or so ago, which I thought was pretty good. But this was much more personal and very emotional. Like, not only does Mike come across as a great storyteller, the writing is very well done here. Like I said, I always like these autobiographies where you actually feel like you're sitting down next to the person as they're telling you their story, and I get this quite a bit. And not only is this a story of Mike Campbell and his life and his times in the Tom Petty band, but the Heartbreakers. He does a great job also of, in a little way, telling the story of various members of the Heartbreakers and specifically Tom as well. And this book really, at its heart, is really about the relationship between him and Tom. That's really what this is all about, and how it kind of changed and morphed throughout the years and how it was strained at times, but there always was the kind of the bigger picture of the relationship between the two of them and what they would create together in this band. But Mike goes into great detail about how there were times where he felt like kind of like on the outside looking in, where, Tom felt that everything about the band was all about him. And, they talk about Stan and Benmont and everybody else in the group and kind of their issues with Tom over the years, or with the music, or with the management and record labels and all that sort of thing. And producers. There's a whole chapter or two about Stan and Jimmy Iovine and working on a couple albums where they just wanted to get rid of Stan on the drums. And yeah, but also if you're a fan of Benmont Tench and his keyboard playing, they talk quite a bit, or Mike talks quite a bit in this book, about how important Benmont's keyboard playing always was to the Heartbreakers. And as you kind of, again, I'm a guy who, when I'm listening to music and albums, I tend to listen to like guitar players and singers, and to an extent keyboard players and bass players, and drums not always, right? But sometimes, like when you read stuff like this and you hear it from someone within the band talking about how important some of these players were to the music. Like, so as I've been reading this book, I've been going back and re-listening to some of these Tom Petty albums and just try to hone in on what Benmont was doing or what Stan was doing. And yeah, the music of the Heartbreakers was really nobody, obviously you got Tom's voice, but nobody really stood out as being overly flashy or like, look at me, look at me, look at me, but it's a true ensemble here. So if you go and you re-listen to some of this stuff and you really say, okay, I want to really listen to Benmont's organ and piano and whatnot, really is the glue that holds everything together. And then, Mike talks a lot about his guitar playing and how he came up with certain riffs and passages and things. He started talking about chord progressions and stuff like that. And he gets, really, you could tell he's really into like the art of guitar playing and the theory behind it and all that sort of thing. So very, very cool. I never knew that the creation of the Damn the Torpedoes album was like filled with such stress and whatnot, and how that it took them forever to put that album together, and then a couple other albums too, how they spent so much time in the studio reworking things and doing tracks. I mean, Refugee apparently they did like 40 takes of that, and just, it drove Mike absolutely crazy, some of the nitpicking in the studio when it came to the Damn the Torpedoes album. But they talk a lot about all the different records, and he doesn't go into as much some of the latter stuff. It's more about the early days and a lot of the mid period, like the 80s and the 90s. He talks about the Traveling Wilburys era, talks about the whole period where the Heartbreakers were basically the band for Bob Dylan, and how much of a rewarding time that was. He talks a lot about some of the drug addiction within the band, and it talks quite a bit the last couple of chapters about Tom's last couple of years and how hard that was for everybody, and also about how he, after Tom passed away, there was kind of that void there, and how he put together another band, and just trying to make a go of it, and forming his own voice, trying to get behind the microphone and singing for the first time. And then people are like, oh, you sound just like Tom. And he's like, oh, I don't know if I want to sound like Tom, but it is my voice. They talk about the Mudcrutch period, and it's a really, really good book. And I think that the last couple of chapters are very, very emotional and very moving. And he talks about joining Fleetwood Mac for that tour, and he comes across as a really nice guy, a really kind of laid back guy who probably keeps a lot of stuff inside, and talks a lot about his home life, about his wife and children, and his relationship with his wife all these years. And yeah, just a really rewarding book. It took me a while to get through it because it is a big book, and it's been such a crazy summer. Like, I haven't read as much as I'd like to, but the last week, I think I read half of it in the last week, after kind of taking a little time to get into it for the month before that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this a lot, and I think if you're a fan of just rock music in general, if you're a guitar fan, if you are a Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers fan, you absolutely need to read this. Again, I've always been kind of like a moderate Tom Petty fan. I've probably gotten into his music more in recent years. I've always kind of liked this stuff, but in the last couple of years I've gotten more and more into him, and I've always thought that the guitar skills of Mike Campbell were top notch. Again, not a very flashy player, but man, so integral to so many of these great songs. And a guy that comes up with great little parts and licks and things that are just essential to the success of a lot of these classic songs. And this band has had so many great songs and hit songs and whatnot, and a lot of great deep cuts and whatnot. And yeah, this is just a great kind of telling of the story of the band, because it's just as much a memoir of himself as it is about the band. In fact, probably more so about the band. He doesn't go into huge lengths about his upbringing and all. You get a little bit of it, but this is more about the story of the Heartbreakers as told by one of the guys. So really, really enjoyed this a lot. I can't recommend this highly enough. So go check it out if you haven't already. Mike Campbell, A Memoir, Heartbreaker, along with Ari Serduval. Definitely go check this out. Well worth your read. Very, very good read. So thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, our Cameo page, and the Sea of Tranquility membership options. All down there. Thanks in advance for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. And we'll see you soon here with more stuff. I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.